Dear friends, my name is Operator Starsky, and this is day 985 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian defenders fight back near Kurakhove, a prominent Wagnerite found good in Russia. German expert debunked the Nord Stream conspiracy, and Russian mothers expressed their concern about losing their sons in the mid-assaults in Ukraine. Will it help? We'll see. This is the Frontline focus, and we will talk about the most recent updates right now. Over the past week, Russia dropped more than 900 bombs on Ukrainian cities. More than 30 missiles and more than 600 kamikaze drones were launched by the Russian invaders. In Kharkiv, terrorist federation attacked a famous local trade center and a civilian building. Unfortunately, we have information about civilian casualties. The rescue operation continues. At this point, we know about at least 11 wounded and 4 dead Ukrainian civilians. According to Chief of General Staff of Ukraine, General Syrsky, the armed forces of Ukraine are facing some of the biggest Russian offensives since 2022. At this point, Ukrainian defenders are expecting so much needed military aid from the allies promised by the United States Congress in the beginning of 2024. In the meantime, Russian invaders use the opportunity to improve their positions in the direction of Kurakhove and Pokrovsk. According to the Institute for the Study of Warfare, the Russian invaders gained tactical success near Siversk, Pokrovsk and Vuhledar. At the same time, it was reported that the Ukrainian defenders returned their positions around Kurakhove that were captured last week by the Russian terrorists. Currently, we can see increased combat dynamic at these two spans of the front line, which is explained by two factors. Russians failed the deadlines of taking Pokrovsk and Kurakhove, which was expected in October. And number two, the Russians expect to gain advantage before the cold season starts in Donbass, because winter will introduce new challenges in terms of using drones and vehicles, both for the Russian invaders and Ukrainian defenders. Apparently, we will see both Ukraine and Russia stockpiling weaponry, preparing for the new phase of combat in spring. At the same time, airstrikes will become more frequent. We will see more Russian aircraft and missiles striking civilian infrastructure during the coldest period. It is a known fact that so-called Russian Z-Patriots celebrate each Russian strike on the Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. However, their number shrank. Last week, a body of a prominent Russian terrorist, one of the closest subordinates of Yevgeny Prigozhin, was found in a lake in Russian Karelia. Being a member of the terrorist group Wagner, Andrei Tkachenko committed atrocities in Syria, later in 2022 in Ukraine, and after returning from Ukraine, he decided to start a new peaceful life, employed as a chief of security in a Russian company. I know it sounds ridiculous when you combine words security and Russia in the same sentence, but anyways, the terrorist went fishing and apparently he felt really exhausted after the years of fighting, because in the end he was discovered peacefully sleeping with the fish. I always wanted to say that. But to summarize the story, I just wanted to remind you that in the Terrorist Federation there's this good old tradition of eliminating people who know too much. That's just a tiny tip for all the individuals involved in the Russian terrorism who think that they're safe. Because, you know, getting sucked out a window or drowning in Russia became a real trend since 2022. And speaking of big bodies of water, professional diver and underwater archaeologist Sven Thomas, in his interview to the German Bild, debunked the version of a civilian yacht with Ukrainians on board being involved in destroying the Nord Stream pipeline. According to the expert, it is impossible to conduct such operation having only a single yacht without any supporting vessels and without a massive crane that would weigh at least a ton. Also, Mr. Thomas stated that in order to position the yacht directly over a target, it would require several anchors, because 75 horsepower engine could not keep the yacht in the same spot. Also, the operation would require at least 400 kilograms or 800 pounds of explosives, which is quite a challenge for such a tiny vessel, not only in terms of carrying cargo, but also obtaining it and evading security. The Russian mothers become more vocal in the social media, expressing their growing concern of losing their sons in the meat assaults in Ukraine. We already mentioned this several times in the previous videos. A Russian meat assault is basically the foundation of the Russian doctrine utilized by the Russians since at least 1939. It's when you know you can sacrifice more than 1,000 soldiers in order to obtain 14 square kilometers or roughly 5 square miles on a daily basis. And since the times of invading Finland, the Russian terrorists successfully utilized this tactic on the battlefield, and apparently this makes the Russian command extremely happy, while the Russian mothers and widows keep raising awareness. Already in 2022, facing unexpectedly high casualties, Putin classified the losses. But it's really hard to conceal them from the Russian society due to all the footage available online. The facts keep leaking through a number of cracks in the Russian censorship. Among the most recent cases, a group of anonymous supporters of freedom of speech hacked Russian TV company Pervo-Uralsk, showing some of the FPV footage from the front lines to the Russian population. I mean, there is no way you can hide the truth. So nowadays we can see an emerging trend among the Russian mothers, and not only mothers, quietly criticizing the Russian command for the meat assaults. Will it grow into something louder than whispering on a kitchen? We will see. I'm sure that Putin's cannibals already calculated the risks, and maybe another shower of Russian propaganda will be aimed at justifying the Russian losses. For example, amazing memorial has been established last week in the Russian city of Noginsk, portraying a Russian soldier committing suicide on a battlefield. I will read a description for you. A wounded soldier leaning back against the wall, holding a grenade with a removed pin in his hand. A moment before making a step into eternity, an image recognized by everyone, raised by the Russian military culture. Seriously, you can't make it up. You might think, what the hell is wrong with those Russians? Why would they endorse dying in a foreign land for Putin and teach their generations to self-exterminate? But the reason, my dear viewers, is much more primitive. You see, Russian soldiers who committed suicide in Ukraine ain't recognized as killed in action, therefore their families can't receive compensation. That's freaking smart. With that, my friends, I wish you all a beautiful day. Please share your thoughts in the commentaries. I'm Operator Starsky. As always, be safe.